If you're just starting out in the gym, it can be difficult to know where to start. There's so much information out there and a lot of it's conflicting, so it can be a bit confusing to figure out what you should train. So in this video, I'm going to try to give you 3 qualities that you can focus on right out of the gate to start progressing in the gym. Before we begin, my name is Andrew Moore. I'm a personal trainer and movement coach based in Toronto, and my goal with this channel is to help people move better, feel better, and move with confidence both in the gym and in life outside of the gym. So here we go. The very first quality that I would focus on would be building strength. As a personal trainer, I've seen getting stronger be the thing that makes the biggest change in my clients' lives. There are a lot of benefits to strength training, the biggest of which I think is an increased sense of agency in your everyday life. When you are stronger, you feel more capable of doing things, and you don't feel as hesitant to maybe pick something up off the ground. You don't feel cautious about maybe going on that camping trip or playing a pickup sport that your friend invited you to. So that is the very first benefit of strength training that I would recommend to focus on because I think it has the most rewards. To start, I would focus on compound movements. You've got your push movements. That's anything like pressing, overhead press, push-up, bench press, dips, any variation of those. You've got your pull movements like your rows, your pull-ups, and any of those variations, both with free weights, body weights, and machines. You've got your hinge movements like your deadlift, Romanian deadlift, kettlebell swings, and the variations on those, as well as the single leg variations like single leg Romanian deadlifts, and your squat movements. Things like barbell squats, goblet squats, and if you're using machines, leg presses, hack squats, and the single leg variations like split squats, lunges, step ups, and all those fun things. I'll make a video in the future about programming those movements, but the main thing to start with is 3 sets of 10 reps because that's a very easy rep range to measure. Choose a weight that is challenging enough to make reps 8 to 10 feel difficult, but not impossible, especially if you're just starting out. We don't want to go to failure just yet since we're building the pattern of each movement, trying to get a consistent form going in each exercise. The closer you get to failure, the more your form's going to fall apart, so we just want to keep that in mind when we're starting out. When the weight starts to feel a little less challenging, increase the load by 5 to 10 pounds and continue on that for a little while. Once you get a little more grounded in that, you can start playing with the rep ranges and the intensity or load, but for now, start with 3 sets of 10 and see where that takes you. The second quality that I would focus on, and what's nice about this one is that it's wrapped up within the box of strength training as well, is mobility. The definition of mobility is the ability to control movement through a full range of motion of a joint. This would be things like squatting all the way down so that your hamstring is covering your calf as best you can, keeping your chest up, and a relatively neutral spine. It could also be something like starting your pull-ups from a full dead hang before you increase the rep range or add weight, or something like doing a Romanian deadlift as deep as you can without losing form. A good strength program trains mobility because you're training your muscles through a full range of motion and putting load on your muscles through that full range of motion. This will help increase your mobility in an unloaded state as well. Personally, I attribute my ability to rest in a deep squat to my training squats like barbell squats, kettlebell squats, goblet squats through as full a range of motion as possible. I didn't always start with being able to get all the way down, but over time I increased the depth and now I can hang out in a deep squat with relative ease. Some days are easier than others, and that's sort of the ongoing process of increasing range of motion, but over time I've seen tons of gains just by training squats as deep as I can. Now there is a time and place to do some dynamic stretching. I like to start each session with a client doing some sort of dynamic stretching like windshield wipers, cat-cows, maybe Jefferson curls, maybe doing some light goblet squats as a sort of extension of the dynamic stretching, getting the body more primed, putting it under load. And all those are a great way to immediately increase range of motion and getting your body prepared for doing some heavier work like squats, deadlifts, overhead presses, pull-ups, dead hangs, anything like that. I also think that if you've been fatigued after a really heavy workout and you still want to do some sort of movement on another day, then spending some time doing some stretching, some lighter mobility work really does go a long way to help increase range of motion as well in these movements. That being said, I do think the best way to increase range of motion is through strength training through a full range, through the full articulation of a joint, and the other stuff can be a nice supplement. The caveat to this is things like movement flows or movement skills like crawling or get-ups. Those can be really beneficial to build strength and stability in the joints that will carry over really well to your strength training. So far we've got strength and we've got mobility, and the third quality that I think everybody should train in some way is power. So power is extremely important, especially as we age, because that's one of the qualities that we tend to lose first. I think it's mostly because we've sort of accepted as a society that when you age, your body just shuts down. And so we stop training the qualities that could keep us going at least a little bit longer. And power is important because it's the ability to move quickly and forcefully either under load or unloaded. This includes things like sprinting, jumping, things like kettlebell swings, the Olympic lifts, plyometric push-ups, push presses, among other things. If you're just starting out and don't feel confident in your ability to execute things like sprinting or jumping without the potential of injuring yourself, then kettlebells are a great place to start with your power training. The kettlebell swing is a relatively approachable movement that helps to develop power in the hips while strengthening the posterior chain and your grip. Once you learn the swing, there are a lot of variations that you can do with your training, like single arm swings, cleans, and snatches to continue to make progress. You could lighten the load of your deadlift and try to pick it up a little quicker, or you could start to work on something like a clean pull, which is a foundational exercise in Olympic weightlifting and sort of resembles a deadlift with slight differences, to build some more power training into your routine. One great exercise that I think is accessible to most people is the push press. It's sort of like an overhead press that's performed with some slight leg drive to help get the weight up overhead. Most people I work with naturally default to this movement when they're fatigued, so it seems to be a bit of an instinctual thing to bring the legs into the mix. So if you're wondering where to start and you have good overhead mobility, that could be a great exercise to choose. And you can do it with barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, any sort of free weight. You could also start to practice jumping by not even fully jumping off the ground and just mimicking the wind-up motion into triple extension by extending your knees, hips, and ankles at the same time without leaving the ground. That way you don't have to worry about the landing potentially messing with your knees. And as you build that skill and as you get stronger, your joints will hopefully get a little more resilient, and you can start practicing things like the landing, which is the most important part of the jump because that's where most injuries occur. So start by training those things separately, and once you kind of build a little more confidence and adapt a little bit to the new stimulus, then you can start adding some plyometrics or jumping into your routine by bringing those things together. Doing things like box jumps, depth jumps, broad jumps are all a great way to build power into your training. So how should you start training these qualities? You could train them all on the same day, and that's how I would work with clients because we usually have limited time. And as long as you do it intelligently and respect the fact that if you're starting from zero, your body's maybe not used to the stimulus, you can totally work them all in to the same session. I would first start with your dynamic warm-ups. Things like I said before, your windshield wipers, your cat-cows, your world greatest stretch. I'll link a video in the description. That's my go-to warm-up that I use with everybody, and I sort of adjust it to people's needs as they need, and it's a great way to start your workout. That's the sort of initial mobility part of the workout, and from there, once you feel ready, I would move into the power training. Now, you don't need to do too much. Right now, we're trying to think more about generating force in each rep rather than trying to tire yourself out. If you're doing something like box jumps or broad jumps, don't go for reps. We want to focus on quality in each rep. For a box jump or a depth jump, I would start with 1 to 3 sets of 5 reps and really focus on trying to get as much out of each rep as possible. And make sure you're focused on the landing. The reason we don't want to train too many reps in this exercise is that you don't want to hurt yourself on the landing, especially if you get fatigued and stop focusing so much on the quality of the movement. It really opens you up for the potential of something going wrong. If you're starting out, let's focus on quality first and then build up to those more demanding workouts. So this power portion of the workout could be your plyometrics, like I was just talking about, or this can be your exercises like your kettlebell movements, swings, snatches, cleans, or your Olympic weightlifting based movements like clean pulls, power cleans, stuff like that. Although if you're a beginner, I would hold off on the Olympic lifts right away as they can be very technical, or you can get a coach who can help you to learn those things. I'm personally just getting my feet wet with all those movements, and they're really fun, but they're very technical and do demand quite a bit of focus. So it can be helpful to have someone hold your hand as you're going through them. After your power movements, I would go into your strength exercises. This would be things like your deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts, squats, single leg variations, rows, presses, bench presses, dips, things like that. But once you finish the strength portion of the workout, you're pretty much done. You can go home and you can rest easy knowing that you've trained every quality that will help you live a long and happy life. So that's the video for today. If you enjoyed it, maybe comment, maybe subscribe to the channel and keep up with what I'm putting out there in the world. And I'll see you next time.